Awesome, awesome. We're just gonna get right into it while we wait for the other ladies to join us. Mewan Shele in Nigeria. Just want to say that first of all, because I can't wait for the day where I just come online and I just see good news. I come online and I'm not panicking. I come online and I'm not seeing news on insecurity. Everything is just going well. When will they come? I cannot particularly tell you when they will come, but hopefully it will come sooner than later. But first off, let's start with this one. UNICEF says only 1 in 4 Nigerian school children can read and solve basic math by age 14. When I saw this, it was alarming. I'm not even going to lie. Because what do you mean that 1 in 4 children that by age 14 they'll be able to read and solve basic math? And the assumption is that because you see children going to school means that they're learning something. But then we now have to go internally and ask what are the teachers teaching, what's on their syllabus, are the teachers even teaching them, or it's just a case of the children going to school and just playing? Because this is by UNICEF, so obviously they have done their research and they've come out, of this. There's also you might want to say, oh, maybe it's kids in the northern area, but they said in Nigeria, right? Maybe the northern numbers may be higher. It is possible, but that's what this is saying. The UNICEF chief of Lagos Field Office, Celine Celine basically says that these numbers are not in government reports, that these are real children growing up without the skills they need to survive, without the skills they need to get jobs or support their families or contribute to the economy. She also said that the rise of artificial intelligence, AI, and digital technology could deepen inequality if urgent investments are not made in education and digital skills. The children who know how to use technology have a chance. The ones who don't will be left behind. So UNICEF has said that Nigeria has an estimated 20 million out of school children, one of the highest figures globally. And he's saying that's Harold, the UNICEF education specialist, that the challenge is not just getting children to the classrooms, but also ensuring that they remain in school and complete their education. Now, the Ogun State Commissioner for Education, Diko Eluwole, has said that insecurity, poverty, migration also contributes to the factors that fuel out of school crisis, while the government and development partners are seemingly implementing interventions to improve access to education. I'm glad that, Ibn Abba is here because she's an educationist. Oh, Susan is here as well. Hi, Susan.
Hello, good morning, Fumi. Sorry, I'm late.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's okay. It's okay. Good morning. So 1 in 4 children, Nigerian children, will not be able to read or write or even get access to jobs, will not be able to come out of school with skills they need for jobs. I'm happy that we have educationists here. Starting off with Ibn Abba, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, good morning. Good morning, Lady Susan herself. See the pillars carrying the standard we have managed to attain with these statistics are, I would dare say, are the private schools. Because free education is great, but we are fast losing our high standards. Nobody is checking students, nobody's checking. So you see, when students are dropping in their grades, we know about in the classroom, but when it becomes a huge problem, how many government agencies responsible for this are checking? We only get statistics from such bodies as you have reeled out. Now, nobody is checking. Students are fast becoming the ones in charge in some schools. Do you know that in some of these public schools, I'm talking about, let's say, the secondary schools. When you go to some secondary schools, some students are the ones in charge. They are the ones who will, tell a teacher what to teach. When I heard this, I was shocked. Because some teachers are afraid of these students already, for whatever reasons, for so many varying reasons that we can easily guess. So you see, year in, year out, the figures of out-of-school children continue to increase. And the question is, drastic measures have been put in place to stall this. Once upon a time, a particular governor of Kano State came out with a policy to lure parents to enroll their children in schools. What did he do? I think he promised to give each parent an amount of money to encourage them to enroll children.
To go to school, yeah.
The governor from up north still came out with a stringent punishment to parents who wouldn't enroll their children in school. So you see, all of this were put in place, but how consistent are we? Those governors are no longer the governors of those states. And what are the present governors doing in that regard? So you see, the problem, apart from other things, is consistency. We are not consistent with policies. Somebody will come and raise a policy, another one will come and forget about it. And then, of course, we talk about insecurity, which is still as hard-headed as ever. Are you talking about the IDPs, children who have been displaced, children who have lost their parents to banditry, to bandits rather, and to insurgency? You understand? The poverty level keeps dropping below and below. So, you know, we have a lot of children working now, a lot of children working, a lot of children working as whatever they are working as in many places. And then we keep looking at up north as the area where we have the the highest number. But look at down south, more so southwest. I hope that we're not going to be competing with the numbers of up north very soon because of what is going on as it pertains to the activities of
yeah.
See, there is something we call, I'm just going everywhere. I've looked at that. Now, if you standard the mathematics and all of that I mentioned, there is something we call foundational numeracy skills. When a child misses this, it becomes a hurdle to excel with high grades in maths, because in every subject, especially mathematics, you need a foundation. You need a foundation, and when you miss that foundation, it affects subsequent teachings. It affects how you're going to begin to assimilate and understand. And what about overcrowded classrooms?
Yeah.
Because this is our reality. You go to some schools, especially in fact, government schools to be precise. You go to a classroom, they are up to 70 in a class. They are up to 80 in a class. Look at the perimeter of that classroom. And then look at the number of children in that classroom. And we're talking about one teacher. And these are secondary school children. They are not like undergraduates who, you know, they have other means to study and everything. These are children whose parents are probably selling somewhere. And once they are closed from school, they don't go home directly. They go to the shops to help their parents out. And already they're coming from a school where they are up to 80, 90, 100 in a classroom. So how do they learn? How does a child understand? How do you make your teacher know that you don't understand a particular topic that he brought to the class? So I haven't looked at that. We are also looking at the training and the retraining of teachers. You have a teacher who probably graduated over 15, 20 years ago and is yet to upgrade, is yet to understand. We're talking about AI and other tech-related knowledge. Most of these teachers are working with analog brain, analog style of teaching. So
analog everything.
Analog everything. So what are we looking at? So when actions are required at multiple levels, because if we continue to review books, if you notice for me, sometimes now very soon September will come and then children are going to be moving to new classes and buy new books. Some of the books you see that they have been revised, they have been reviewed and everything. Do we review teachers' grades? Do we review their standards? Do we review anything about teachers? The books are being reviewed, but teachers are still coming with their old knowledge, their old understanding. So they will always set you back. They will always say that that is for those who have taken their time to study the revised and the reviewed books. So the problem is hydra-headed. We need more. We need to make basic education truly free. I'm going back to the government now, and very flexible indeed. You know, they tell you education is free, and then when you want to enroll a child, you talk about there are hidden costs. Talk about uniforms. Talk about books. Talk about examination fees. Let alone special classes. If you attend a school and you are an indigent student in a school, in a secondary school, and you are not an excellent student, you need you need extra coaching. Who's going to pay for that?
Who's going to pay for that?
Will the school provide a special class for this set of students to have special coaching? Because parents who are even finding it difficult to feed you as a student, and that's why you see sometimes, you see some of these children, they go to schools in tattered uniforms because they will wear one uniform for the next 3-4 years. So you see, the problems are so enormous. We're talking about school infrastructure. The rural areas and some urban communities underserved in terms of structures. Have you been to some schools? Did you see these students were abducted? Have you seen the school in that area, other schools in that within that axis? Have you gone to some places, Lagos State? Have you seen some buildings? You'll be scared to enroll your child in that school. Have you been to some, even down south? Let's leave the north. We know what north is about. We know that in terms of education, the leaders, the governors, everybody need to do better. Come down to the southern part of Nigeria. Come and see infrastructures that are very, very dilapidated and nobody is doing anything about it. Some of these children, even desks and tables and benches in their classroom, they sit on the floor to study. How do you assimilate when you are uncomfortable? How do you assimilate when you are? There was a time that school feeding was introduced, and there were some videos going viral then. You should have seen some of the food they were serving the children, even with the inconsistency of the school feeding. The beans don't turn to gbegiri. You know what gbegiri is? When you cook beans and you blend it and it becomes very watery. They serve them with that and 2 slices of bread. Which part of your belly that one won't hold? So whatever you are doing, let us be intentional, let us be deliberate about it. Are we going to talk about the child out of school? It's a lot. We're talking about the girl child out of school. The girl child marriage is yet to be fully addressed. A girl is not encouraged to go to school. The community is not encouraging her to go to school. When a girl is about 10, 12, our parents are already looking at her, looking at any prospective suitor to come and take her away so that they can the bride price. So it is enormous. So when they tell us that some children don't understand mathematics, we know. In fact, for me, that statistics was even boosted by the private schools, because you will see an average public school student who can't even make a senior class student who can't make a simple correct sentence. I know it's written in English, so you have to understand English to understand the questions, especially the word problems. So when you bring in word problem, people don't understand English, we don't fit to read well. I want to understand the word problem now, let alone solving it. So the problem is hydra-headed. We need to create a flexible program for peculiar people as well. Children who have not been in school for so long, who are just being brought to school like the nomadic children. So a lot. Some children are enrolled in schools according to their age. Nobody wants to say that you are just coming to school for the first time. If you are 12, 13, they will tell you, you are too big for primary 1. Okay, they will manage 3. What happened to what was studied in primary 1 and primary 2? You're just going to jump into primary 3. And how then do you catch up fast? How then do you understand and assimilate? How then can you even solve maths? Because people have made mathematics like a hurdle that people cannot, surmount. And then parents are bringing it home. So many parents, even in their discussion, have made mathematics like a scary subject. So when they talk about mathematics in the home, me, but one school, AP, maths, me more maths still led you. Your child is listening to you. This child will go to school with this mindset and equally become afraid of maths. They won't even give mathematics a chance. Meanwhile, me, when I was in school, I've always said it, I've said it severally on this program, that if mathematics was a human being, I would have married Mr. Mathematics, because I liked mathematics so much.
Wow.
I gave mathematics a lot of teacher. I studied by myself, and even till date, I can teach without going back to the syllabus, without going back to the textbook. I can just pick a subject and teach you mathematics. I do with some students, even some JAM students, some WAEC students. So you see, a lot of problems that we need to solve one after the other. We take it from the family down to the government and back to the schools. Insecurity, out of the economy. Most parents, once you're back from school, you're going to hawk. You can't even do your homework because you must hawk so that we can make small profit, so that we can have enough food to eat in the evening at home.
Yes.
Then don't eat before they go to see. We can go on and on and on. So when we get statistics like this, we shouldn't just pretend as we don't know what the cause, what the reasons are. The reasons are, and the government have a large chunk of the responsibility. So everybody should do the needful. All hands should be on deck. We didn't arrive at this point like magic. We arrived at this point gradually. We saw it coming, and a lot of hands were not on deck to quickly stop it before we got to this bus stop. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I like all the angles and all the aspects that you got in. Susan, let's hear your thoughts. Before then, we are live on YouTube at WFM917, and you can listen to us on the go via our website, www.wfm917.com. The phone lines are now open for 7,917-917 or 0800-123-5917. You can text us, WhatsApp us, or send us a voice note on 0703-175-6537 or 08155 917-917. Yes, over to you, Susan.
Thank you so much for me, and good morning, Mami Binabo. Good morning.
We cannot hear you any longer, Susan.
HerLens family. So what UNICEF has done, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, yes.
Okay, so what UNICEF has said, we've been saying it on HerLens, but I guess because it's from UNICEF now, the world will listen, because, we have always said it, that we have an educational crisis in Nigeria, because it's not just about access. There's a lot of inequality, there's a lot of learning gaps, and one of the things that came out strongly in what Mami Binabo said is the lack of accountability across all levels of society. You cannot underestimate that, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, whether you're a student, or even the government. So solving it, means that everyone must know their role. I always say it. Parents have this notion, parents and guardians, because we know some people live with others. It's not about enrolling your child in school alone. Can you prioritize feedbacks? Can you prioritize visiting and understanding how they are doing in school? You just don't malo, just go. No, that is not a good place to be. For parents, those of you who prioritize early marriage, that's another huge gap. I know it happens in the South, in different areas, not just the North, because most times we concentrate on the North. And what this does is most of the interventions that come to Nigeria go to the North, whereas there are so many places in the North, in the East, everywhere. In the East, where I come from, we know what is happening. They sit at home every Monday. So by the time a child wakes up on Monday morning and is not even going to school, Tuesday is just, let's go and play. It's also important that we encourage girls' education equally with boys. Some people prioritize boys and keep the girls behind. We've talked about engaging teachers and all of that. Training and retraining can never be too much for teachers. It can, because we have analog teachers, whether you believe it or not. And times are changing, times are evolving. So we need to look at, the poverty and cultural beliefs that prevents many parents. This is focused on parents now, from sending their children, especially their girl child, to school. For teachers, we know people need to adopt inclusive and child-friendly learning approaches. Some people are so harsh. We have treated it on HerLens, where you see people, the way they react to their students and what have you. And the children of I don't know what I will call these ones now. They are not the type that you need to make them your friends, even though you keep your boundaries. You need to increase awareness of inclusive education, because Mami Binabo has touched on overcrowded classrooms. That cannot be overemphasized. Poor learning outcomes. Nobody tries to know, are the children are they just attending school or are they just learning? We need to be looking at those things. When you have crowded classrooms, have you looked at teacher burnout and low motivation? Most public schools, the motivation is low. I used to be a teacher. I left because I had looked at myself 5-10 years. Is this what I want to do? I was connecting with my students, and if I had to focus on my students, I won't go. But my students won't pay my bills. My students won't be there to support me when it matters most. So I had to choose what was best for me at the time. That was why I took a walk. Now, the role of government, we know that we have free basic education. These policies exist. And I tell people at conferences, every gathering, if there's a country that has one of the fantastic policies, I think we should give it to Nigeria. We have international partnerships with UNICEF and others. We have some investments in the girl child education and, of course, the school feeding programs, which is phasing out in some places. But beyond all of this, because I need to also talk about the things that I have seen working, and before I go to the gaps. For me, the gaps will be for poor funding and implementation. Mami Binabo just talked of you eating beans that is as soft as a begiri with 2 slices of bread, and we know the millions that go into school feeding. I am a fan of always advocating of the unequal access between those at the rural areas and at the urban areas. Right. There is unequal access. If you think that in places in the southwest like Lagos and some other states that are even trying, that the buildings are dilapidated, you don't want to go to the rural areas. Why do you think it is easy to go into some of these schools? We discussed it yesterday, to go and pick up children. Have you seen how porous it is? So penetration is quite easy. Have we talked about the weak monitoring of education quality? Who visits? I know while I was a teacher in Lagos, we have people who come to monitor and see what we are teaching the children, but does it cut across board? We're talking of the insecurity situation. I don't want to go over that again. And then, I belong to a community of persons who are over 35 million in Nigeria. So we have insufficient inclusive education infrastructure.
Yeah.
Our infrastructure does not address the different clusters of disability. It's not only about those of us who sit on a wheelchair, those you can see who carry crutches. There are people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who looks at their learning. I have people with albinism. You see a child with albinism is placed at the back because he's tall. And this is someone who has short-sightedness. How will that person cope when you place that person behind? Yeah. I can go on and on, but this is not focused. This is just me amplifying that demography because it will take a whole day. And then for the students and children themselves, because what is working for the children will be that, they show resilience. Despite these barriers, they still show up at school. Their uniforms might be looking dirty and the child might not even bath well, but they show up at school. Let's applaud that. And also, there's this increased awareness among young people, they know that school exists. So we cannot take that away from them. You know, the students themselves know, but what are the challenges? Poverty pushing them into labor. Mami Binabo touched on this. I remember when I was a teacher, I have this student who is always sleeping. I don't flog students. That is just my rule. So I called him and I needed to know. I called him into my staff room and said, what is the problem? You know, his colleagues always make jest of him. I wanted to know. So I called him in and he said, Ma, we go to the bakery very early to go and pick up bread. If we do not go very early, they might not give my mom the number of bread she needs. So we have to wait there. When they finish baking, we pick up our own bread. I have to go and put it for my mom before I go home. So all of those things. And this is a boy, barely 11 years. What do you expect? We are looking at early marriage for girls. If it happens to girls without disability, what happens to girls with disabilities who are already seen as liabilities and burden? We are looking at lack of safe learning environments, which is why insecurity permeates these places. Some of these places do not even have securities. Their walls, they don't have fence. I have passed several schools, no fence. How do you begin to look at some of these things? And then we look at, low motivation due to poor school quality. I beg your pardon. You know, what is the motivation? In this era where you come on social media and you see, you know, so many things that is happening, you are feeling, why should I even go and waste my time? So UNICEF data for me is not just statistics. It is just a mirror that has re-echoed what we have said over and over on this platform. Parents, teachers, governments, and students all play a role in all of this. It's not a one cap fits all, because that child who you send to school, who has mufti in their bag and follows what we call Appian Way or the back road to go somewhere else, is also perpetuating some of these things that we are talking. So when one system fails, the child is the one who bears the burden. And for me, I would say education will only work when responsibility is shared. But yes, it has to be shared. You don't put it to one particular set of persons. And then, more importantly, what is our accountability system? Because if there is no accountability system, my sister, in few months, another research will come out and we'll come back here to come and analyze and fefu. It's not by that. Everyone needs to take accountability. Thank you.
Absolutely agree with you. So what now? So that's one of the ways from the part of the government, Uncle. What's the Ibrahimo has a hand already. What's the from part of the government? What's the way forward? From part of the schools, what's the way forward? Because you can't say that schools should not charge school fees. But I'm also supposing that this data is mainly for kids, like Ibrahimo said, in rural areas, kids in public schools. What can the schools do as well? Taking into consideration that okay, they need to figure out a way for the money to go around, things like that. But let's hear what Ibn Abba has to say. Ibn Abba, over to you.
Okay, thank you. I actually wanted to add to what Lady Susan. Okay. But even at that, you see, I want to say something to our leaders. There is something that we have observed, and those who have looked properly and deeply would have observed as well. And what am I saying? You see, I have a feeling that our leaders are taking advantage of the resilience that is being displayed by an average Nigerian. It doesn't mean that the problems are not there, because Nigerians go for international competition. Nigerian students, go for international competitions and come out winners, and then they will begin to blow it all over the place as if it was actually the job they did. As a government, let me take it up from where Susan mentioned that she had to put everything on a scale, have continuing to be a teacher or to look for other means of livelihood, and she had to eat because of her livelihood. What is the government doing as it pertains to the salaries of teachers? Because you see, can you see a teacher and want to be one? Teaching job is like a last resort job for anybody, for at least for most in this time around that we are in now.
Yeah.
So what is the government doing? You are making it very, very juicy for politicians to want to do anything to become a senator, to become a member of House or State House and all of that. What have you put in place to make teaching very enviable, very, very sweet, very attractive to maybe grades or even students? When you see, if you check every form filled by students for JAMB, how many of them would willingly feel in to want to attend the College of Education?
True.
It is a school they attend when they don't get admission and they don't want to stay at home.
And that's saying a lot already.
So you can't have the best for such a person because you're not going there with your heart. You don't love this job, but you just want to do something anyways. So you see, government must be serious about the teaching job from the primary school level to the university. I remember so many years ago, we used to have a family friend when I was much younger as a student in secondary school that she used to come to the house. She was from Liberia and she came to university in Nigeria. That cannot happen again. It can't happen because of the drop in standard of education. We were known in Africa as one of the best standards when it comes to education in Nigeria. We were respected worldwide in the years past. And gradually we were nosediving and subsequent government did more or less nothing about it. So we need to look into this because when you put programs in place to train and retrain teachers, if you're expecting a teacher that she will go and pay for her own retraining, you are dreaming because the salary already is not enough. So after the salary, he or she will not take out some money to go for extra training or some kind of retraining or upgrade their standards. You can't get it. They will always live with what they have learned from school. It is the government that should put this in place. There was a time that we came together and there was a communique about this and it was pushed across the states. But Lagos State picked it, some other states did not pick it. Provide an institution free for your teachers so that you can always send them there for training.
Yeah.
And it is not a recycling of analog, please. It is a digital standard of training so that they can measure up with international teachers. We don't have that, let alone they being paid properly. And then we need to have more schools. We need to renovate the old schools. There are some schools that all the schools are bungalows and they are all dilapidated. What is wrong with breaking down one and raise them as high as 2 floors?
Very true.
Accommodate more students and we would decongest the classrooms. Because it is not easy. You are in a classroom and you're about 70 and your teacher has come to teach you and you don't, the noise alone, the murmurs, when people murmur, when murmuring comes from many people, it becomes noise. So you can't really hear who is teaching. So if you, and all of these issues are hugely undermined by the government. So what can this teacher do? The government has a huge role to play here. They have a huge role to play. I also suggested to them that there is need for special coaching. Some parents can't afford it. When I was in school, my parents used to go for special science class. Not every parent can afford that. So as a teacher, to teach, you look at those who are not coming forth very well. You have a list of them. You submit them. Then they will create a special class, maybe Saturday class or evening classes for this set of students. If you want to excel in that sector, you need to put this in place. You cannot just assume that every student should understand and assimilate.
Yeah.
And are we talking about the economy? This is biting everybody, whether you have children in school or not.
I love, yeah.
I remember so many years ago, these 2 boys used to hawk pap in my estate, so many years ago. As early as 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m., you will hear they'll be knocking on doors and they'll be quiet because we want them, you don't make noise. But many people were buying from them. One day I took my time to look out for them and I called them, don't you go to school? They said, just like Susan narrated about one of the students, they said that they had to hawk this pap. Then they will go back home, have
Then
their
get ready for school.
school. It is from the money from that pap that they will take out of and go to school. So you see, life, yes, you are teaching your child some things in this aspect, but you see, when the life becomes such a hard knock one, it doesn't encourage you to go to school because you cannot combine selling in the morning, not sleeping well in the house, waking up so early, and you have to go to school. And in school, you need the full attention.
Yeah.
Studies. So the problem is enormous. Government should prioritize the budget for education. For that sector, they should prioritize the budget. There is an amount, there is a percentage of the budget that has been certified by the United Nations. But we are not up to that. We're not even up to 50% of it. And then parents, they have a lot of role to play. I mean, you shouldn't joke with feedback. Parents shouldn't joke with feedback. What is your child doing? Occasionally visit even if your child attends a public school, there's always a class teacher. Visit the school, get to know more about how your child is faring. So all of these things, we need, I know that we cannot get it together in one fold at a time. But when we take the step in the right direction, gradually we will retrace back our steps that we have lost to up the standard once again. So government, once again, want to tell them, you are taking for granted the resilience of Nigerians. Because each time the economy bites harder, Nigerians will look for a means to patch up the gap, and then you feel that, if the economy is so bad, somebody just had a wedding ceremony yesterday. That is not your business. Your business is looking at the GDP, looking at the percentage of people living below the poverty line.
Yeah, all right.
It's a lot. But I hope that our leaders are listening, and they do listen, because we get feedback, every once in a while. Listen and act upon all these suggestions, and not just listen somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As we round off, Susan, please give us your final word as we round off, because we're running out of time already.
Yes, I know. So quickly, I want to add to something to what Mami Binaboshi has touched on many of the things in my head. But I also think that our school systems, the safety and security of our school system should be strengthened. It's not until it gets to your own school before we start running health. Just yesterday, there was this scare in Nasarawa that, they have come to somewhere close. And, people went to pick their children. Imagine people living in fear. So I think that generally across board, they need to do that. And for me, government needs to move from, policy to action, ensuring that, one, funding, safety, inclusion, and the quality of education for every child, will benefit them effectively. Because we also know that children don't learn at the same pace. We cannot keep pretending and allow UNICEF to keep doing research, and we are not even addressing these concerns. It is not acceptable, and we should ensure to manage our funding through strong accountability. You can play with anything, but once you tamper with education, it affects every other thing in that sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Like I said this morning on the Daily News Review, please let's try and run away from propagating news that would bring about fear-mongering news. Let's do away with it. If the news is not verified, please do away with it as well, because already tensions are high. People are scared, and rightfully so. But we also don't want to contribute to it when it is not negative, when it is not true. Let's not spread rumors. Let's not spread lies just because you want to make the thing. There's no need. We all know the state of the country. We all know the state of insecurity. Let's leave it at that. With that being said, thank you so much ladies, for coming on the program today and sharing such great thoughts and making contributions to this very well needed conversation now in these times that we're in. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day and have a great weekend. Okay, this is still Women Radio 91.7 FM. Up next is Radio